I often wonder if everybody in America knew the truth about everything, how different would things be? And I always come to the same conclusion, and that is it would be so different in America, culturally, economically, even religiously, through a lens of, you know, what we believe to be the origin of the universe and what that means. I think things would be so different that the country would be unrecognizable. And if things were to drastically change, then a lot of people at the top of our financial hierarchy, uh, the hierarchy of power, essentially, would change. Because if people knew the truth, they would know what the people at the top are doing to us in order to stay at the top. And I don't so much want to go into all of that because that can be a deep and confusing conversation. And also, I'm not the best person to do that. I'm really not the best person to talk about many things, to be honest with you. But I do have enough information in my head, enough truth in my head where I can put some things into layman terms, which I think helps more people than listening to a renowned expert on a subject who cannot communicate it in layman's terms. I do appreciate those people. Those people, I get a lot of my information from the people who know exactly what's going on in vivid detail. But, I'll listen to them for about an hour and I'll pick up maybe 25% of what they said because the other stuff went over my head. And that percentage varies from topic to topic. Some things a world renowned expert can discuss will all understand 75% of it or more. But then certain topics, such as finances, how money works, how the economy works, I can understand the basics, but they get so deep and use so many words that I don't fully understand that I really don't pick up on much. So I think an advantage of me providing information to people is that more people can understand it. It'll be more accessible. Therefore, I do have a purpose. Hallelujah. Everyone wants a purpose, right? What I do want to talk about is media because most people, when they turn on a news station, truly believe that is the news, the unbiased news, simply information they're getting without an agenda. And that, in a sense, is never true. In a sense, every single person who is giving you information, news, has an ulterior motive. They have their own agendas. Some push their agenda more so than others. Some people's agenda is simply getting the truth out. That's what I respect about Alex Jones. He has attacked Republicans for years. In fact, back when Bush was president, Bush Jr., and probably Bush Sr., I'm not sure how old Alex Jones was at the time, but he opposed the Republicans. So I appreciate that about him. But there are the most formerly the most popular news networks such as CNN, Fox, NBC, CBS, the ones you grew up being told that's the news, that's really just propaganda. I want to break it down in a very easy to digest way if I can. So I want you to understand this one thing. Someone owns CNN. I'm just going to use CNN because I know that they are they are like the opposite of news. They're terrible at it. They lie constantly, they manipulate on purpose. But why would they do that? It's because someone bought that station so that they could affect people's minds. Buying a news station is not the most profitable endeavor. The people that have the money to buy CNN can make way more money in different ways directly. But indirectly, they can use this news station to keep them safe, to affect their finances positively by shaping our minds. You'll buy CNN, you're a billionaire, you buy CNN, maybe you're from Russia. I don't even know who owns CNN right now. But you're from Russia, you've got $20 billion. You buy a well-known American media organization, and now you can control what the people in America think, because when they want to know what's going on and what to think about it, they turn on your shows. And your shows will say what you want them to say. And if they don't, you'll fire the person who did not say it. The most famous example I can think of would be Tucker Carlson at Fox. Tucker Carlson started questioning wars, questioning pharmaceuticals, and Fox said, you can't do that. The whole reason we exist is to garner support for these wars and to push pharmaceutical products onto the American citizen. Well, Tucker Carlson was by far their number one most watched anchor. He was wildly successful, head and shoulders above everyone else in the news, essentially. And they still let him go. Now, why would you let go someone who is effectively your most profitable asset? Well, like I foreshadowed earlier, it's because you didn't buy that station to make money. You bought the station to control people's minds, to affect what they think and what they think about certain events. And it doesn't matter how good your lead anchor is or how much money they can generate for you. If they're not saying the thing that you bought the station to get them to say, you're going to get rid of them. All of these stations are the same way. So I see a lot of elderly patients, and a lot of them they'll just leave CNN on all day. And they believe everything CNN says, and it shapes their opinions. We're talking about Christian, conservative-minded people who support every liberal cause because the CNN station paints that side to be the good side, and the actual conservative, the actual Christian principle side, they paint them to be bad. So they literally get these people to root against their own interests, their own ideology, and root for the interests and ideologies that are destructive to their own personal ideology. And I used to wonder, why would you do that? Why would you watch a news station that tells you everything that you believe is bad, and that you should vote for the things that you oppose? And then I think I came to the conclusion that they really just don't know where else to get the news. They were told Fox are evil, liars, and the bad guys, so they can't go to Fox. And these people, these patients I'm referring to, they're too old to be, on YouTube looking up independent journalists who aren't controlled by pharmaceutical companies or munition companies or a foreign billionaire with an agenda or the CIA. Whoever controls each of these companies, there's different players in each of these organizations. So I don't think they really have another option. They were told that CNN is the truth and it will tell you like it is, and Fox is lying, and independent journalists are lying grifters that don't know what they're talking about. Don't, trust the experts. If you're on CNN with a nice suit, you're an expert. You could trust that. You can't trust the independent journalists who aren't paid by people with agendas. So they don't know where to go, so they keep going back to CNN. And I would like to ask you, if you only watch CNN, I would like to ask you how often they call out the Democrats for lying or pushing a hoax or just being flat out wrong about something. I don't watch a lot of CNN, but I've seen it and I know how this works. They probably side with the Democrats 98% of the time. And the 2% of the time where they chastise them is basically downgrading something horrific that the Democrats did and making it sound like, yeah, they kind of slipped up right here, but it's not a big deal. So even when they oppose the interests of their employer, it's extremely watered down, which has a profound effect on how you view them. So effectively, 98% of the time, the Democrats are correct in fighting for us and honest, and they're the good guys. And then 2% of the time, they just made an honest mistake. So you got to ask yourself, why does the news station I watch seem to be cheerleaders for one political party? Is that normal? Is that how news would work if you took money out of it, if you took the incentives out of it? If you took money out, if you took the intention of propagandizing a population out, if they're really just trying to get to the truth, let people know what happened, defuse hoaxes, would they always side with the same party literally every time? I think most of you can conclude that that's not how the news would work. Sometimes one side would get busted and the news would detail it, break it down. Sometimes the other side would get busted and they would detail that and break it down and give you the facts, tell you really what happened. Instead, with CNN and the Democrat-leaning propaganda organizations known as news networks, what they do is they will take a 2-minute video, take out a 6-second clip, and play 6 seconds of a 2-minute video for weeks over and over again. And they will put a spin on it. Like, oh, look at this 6-second video. The cops killed this poor innocent person. And then if you look up the full video, you'll see the poor innocent person was basically terrorizing the cops, making them think that the person was about to attack them. But then the cops try to stop them. Then it gets out of hand. But they only show the 6 seconds where the cops tried to stop them. And they build an entire narrative, an entire storyline over that 6-second period that they have chose to beat you over the head over for weeks. And you only know whether they're lying or not if you turn it off and you look it up yourself. But for whatever reason, people either don't want to do that or they don't know how to do that. This will be much less of a problem moving forward because, in 20 years, our elderly people will be more tech savvy and they'll know how to look things up. They'll be able to use AI to look things up. Hey, show me 10 different videos analyzing this situation. Or maybe people will just get smarter overall and they can watch a video themselves and do a little bit of research and come to their own conclusion. Ideally, that's how it would work. We wouldn't have news stations that we watched to get our opinion from. We would get news stations that tell us what happened, gave us all the available information. And then, if they wanted to add a little entertainment on top, maybe bring in opposing sides to talk about it. But they wouldn't have 90, like CNN. I'm just going to throw out a random number. Roughly 90% of the employees of CNN, the people that are on camera, are hardcore Democrats. They side Democrat every time. They side progressive every time. And then they bring in Scott Jennings, who is a like a die in the wool Republican, not just a right leaning Christian. He's a Republican. Whatever the Republican president says, he backs it. Well, he's really good, and he usually makes them look very stupid. But still, if you watch CNN all day, you just view him as this one crazy guy who's always wrong. That's not the case. He may be wrong a lot. He might have a bad take sometimes. He might be lying sometimes. I don't think he lies intentionally, but I don't know him. But everyone who watches CNN religiously just chastises him as being the one crazy guy from the political right that comes on our shows and is wrong constantly. You have to think about what's really happening when you're watching these shows. You're not getting information. Your brain is being programmed a certain way to think the way that the people you're watching are thinking. And if you get sucked into that routine and that's all you ever do is watch the same station, the same shows every day, they side with the same people, they say the same things, and then you start thinking the exact same way, that did not happen organically. You did not just come to that conclusion. You're being victimized by a tribal mindset. These are my people here on this channel. Everything they say is what I should say. Everything they think is what I should think because this is my tribe. At that point, your independent thinking has been shut off and replaced with pure propaganda. At that point, they can get you to believe anything. They can get you to believe that you have to get this experimental shot in your arm or you're going to die and you're going to kill grandmothers. Remember the COVID thing? I'm sure you do. That's not normal. None of these people that watch mainstream news propaganda stations researched the COVID shots by themselves, or they would have had a different conclusion. I can promise you that in most cases. So be very careful about where you're getting your news because there's a very high chance here in America that you're not really getting news, you are being propagandized. So let me open up my X feed, see what's going on today. This is the first time I've heard of black coffee theory, but I really like it. Get clear on what you want and focus on that, not on what you don't want or have. Well, that one's not really going to help because I don't know what the black coffee theory is. But you know what? I do have ChatGPT. What is the black coffee theory? Let's take a look real quick. I've never heard of this in my entire life, by the way. The black coffee theory is a pop psych idea, mostly from social media, not science, about authenticity and acceptance in relationships. Okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be. The metaphor goes like this. Black coffee equals someone in their natural, unfiltered state. No sugar, no cream, no extras. Makes sense. Liking black coffee equates to accepting someone as they are. Needing sugar or cream equates to liking someone only if they're changed, softened, or improved. So the theory says if someone only likes you when you're sweeter, quieter, prettier, richer, more agreeable, etc., they don't actually like you, they like a modified version of you. Okay. Common takeaway, the right people drink you black. Okay. Okay, that was not nearly as profound or deep as I thought it may be. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what relationship we're looking at here. A coworker, your coworkers aren't going to be black coffee. They're going to act a certain way because there's a culture at the workplace. For example, I've worked at hospitals and I've worked in oil field shops. The cultures there were completely different. Oil field shops, I hesitate to say they were black coffee people just being who they are because they for the most part were, but there is a bravado there. Like people will try to be more badass than they actually are. They'll brag about manly stuff. So, that's kind of like putting some cream and sugar in your personality. The hospitals were real bad. In a hospital, it's very multicultural, different religions, different this. You're not going to go around talking about Yeah, Islam is a false religion. Muhammad was a warlord pedophile, and he's a pagan, and he's anti-God. It's a religion of conquest. You're not going to say that. You're going to pour some cream and sugar into your personal coffee, right? You're not going to go off on religious tangents. Well, picture in picture closed. Okay, I don't care. Yeah, you're going to have some cream and sugar in your coffee in social situations for the most part. But if you're talking about a spouse or a close friend, yeah, you don't need to pour cream and sugar. Be yourself. That's the only way you're going to know if you should be friends or not anyway. Anytime I have someone who, shows interest in being an acquaintance of mine outside of work and things like that, I act the way I act. If they don't like it, then we're not going to go any further. And if they do, cool, I can be myself around this person. So, yeah, I would say the black coffee theory is kind of good or bad, contingent on what setting it is. I don't think you should be a black coffee person if you're working at a hospital and you're a certain way that's not compatible with the hospital's culture. But that's interesting. I've never heard of that before. That's my first time encountering the black coffee theory. Not sure why it's called a theory. And I'm probably not going to look any more into that because it seems kind of dumb. Let's keep scrolling here. Epstein spotted again in Tel Aviv, Israel. I guess he's still alive. His death was faked by the Mossad. Okay, so I don't know if Epstein's alive or not. I know he didn't kill himself. Initially, people thought that he was assassinated in prison, which is that's not unlikely. A lot of people wanted him dead. A lot of powerful people who could get that done wanted him dead. But now the current popular theory is that they just took him out. Not like killed him, they took him out of the prison. Apparently, I'm looking at a picture right now of a guy that looks a lot like Jeffrey Epstein with long hair and sunglasses and a long beard. I don't know if they're real or not. I have to go to Alex Jones for stuff like this. He knows how to investigate it. He knows people. He's got technology where he can verify pictures. He's the guy to tell you whether Epstein's alive or not. And he is saying he's leaning towards thinking Epstein is alive. And, where else would he go besides a different private island? Israel, because he was a Mossad asset. He is an asset of their nation, of their intelligence organization. So him going to Israel makes sense. Also, Israel is well known for harboring Jewish pedophiles. I don't think they would harbor like an American pedophile, like just some black guy from Brooklyn who got busted for pedophilia. They're not going to take him in, but they'll take, a rich, powerful Jewish guy. So that is a plausible theory. I mean, like I said, I lean on Alex Jones for stuff like that. He knows way better than I do. He thinks Epstein's probably still alive. But what are you going to do about it? We're not going to do anything about it. The United States government would have to do something about it, and they don't seem very interested in pursuing any of the satanic pedophiles who have stolen our children, raped our children, tortured our children, impregnated our children, birthed the babies so that they could torture the babies, drain their blood, and inject the adrenochrome into their own veins. All that's real. All that's real. The Epstein files had a lot of fake stuff in there because during the 4 years of Biden and whenever else, they put a bunch of fake information in there so that when it's all released, you can't tell what's real and what's fake. Well, luckily there's independent investigators who have been looking into this stuff. They've got connections. Like I said, Alex Jones is great at it. He knows everyone who's great at it. They all collaborate together. It's like a decentralized intelligence agency, like Candace Owens talks about. So we are getting truth out of these Epstein files. Now, it makes it very difficult. It's a slow and painstaking process when you don't know what's real and what's fake, but it's happening. It's getting sorted out. And one thing we know for sure, actually, speaking of Alex Jones, he's known this he's been saying for decades that there are private islands where people have these satanic rituals where they sacrifice stolen children and enslave your bloodline, get a girl pregnant, whatever. Um, take the baby's blood out, inject it into themselves. And some truly horrific things, even worse than that, if you can imagine it, which I hesitate to talk about it. I might talk about it at some point, like one of the worst things I heard, but I don't really want to go into it right now. It's pretty horrific. Not sure it would serve me right now, but if you think about it, most of us know that this is happening. Even Democrats. There's a lot of Democrats that believe this, and it's true. So I'm glad they believe it. So we know that there are satanic pedophiles at the very top of the power hierarchy in the world that are controlling our politicians, controlling our economy, controlling our culture. But that doesn't stop Americans from having knockdown, drag out fights about the Super Bowl halftime show. So to put it cleanly, so you can understand what's happening here, there are satanic pedophiles stealing babies, draining their blood, torturing them, having sex with them, trafficking them around the world, sending them to parties where politicians are all gang raping them. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. I'll probably get this episode taken down, unfortunately. I'm new at this. But anyway, we know that's happening, but that's not as important as arguing over whether the halftime show at the Super Bowl was good or bad. Now, I have my opinions, obviously. I didn't see it, but I have seen clips. It looked like every other trash Super Bowl halftime show I've ever seen. Just a bunch of lights, stuff blowing up, crappy costumes, weird modern art displays that make no sense. This one happened to be primarily in Spanish, which makes it even worse, because I don't know what he's saying. But I did see someone post some of the lyrics to a song, and I can tell you that not knowing what he's saying is probably better than knowing what he's saying. It was just a bunch of club bullshit. Grinding, poking your booty out, putting it in. I don't know. The crap that you would expect from trash club music. So yeah, I have my opinions on it, but I really don't want to fight about that when there's satanic pedophiles enslaving and torturing us and controlling our lives. I think that should be the point of discussion until it's handled. Can we at least agree on that? I'm pretty sure if you're a relatively normal person, whether you vote for Republican or Democrat, you disapprove of that. So shouldn't we pressure the president into going after these people instead of arguing about the Super Bowl? Maybe it's just me. I think that's the most important thing to talk about right now. In fact, I have it on good authority, words getting around, that if the politicians in charge of our justice system do not do anything about these satanic pedophiles who rule us, then we're going to make sure something's done one way or another. That's all I'm going to say right now. We scroll again. Michael Lester is accusing the United States of being owned by Israel, specifically AIPAC. And what he says is not only convincing, but common sense. Okay, well, obviously everyone knows Israel sucks. We don't want to have anything to do with them. We do not appreciate them. They've done terrible things to our country. Their government is evil, just like ours, but it's not ours. So why are we getting involved with them? But I will say, Israel is not, the United States is not owned by Israel. We are far more powerful than Israel. I'm talking like 100 to 1, like an ant versus an elephant. We're an ant versus an anteater. They would have no chance against us. They have no power over us, really, but they do control all of our politicians. So what that means is we are a representative democracy. So we elect local people to go to Washington and try to push our interests in order to shape the country in a way that benefits us, or just in a way that we prefer in general. Well, they get there and then they start taking money from AIPAC, which is the Israel lobby group, even though they say they're not. Don't listen to evil people. They lie. All they do is lie. So AIPAC buys your politician. So effectively what happens is you elect people for no reason because they sell you out when they get there. And even if your politician's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not a sellout. Well, they'll just look into his phone, his emails, whatever they can do, and they're going to get some dirt on them. Most people have dirt on them. Or if they don't have dirt on them, they'll just make something up and blackmail them with that. So that is how Israel controls our representatives, but they don't control the United States. The United States lets them do that, which tells me the United States controls Israel and tells Israel what they can and cannot do with their control over our elected representatives. Either way, no matter how you look at it, Israel is controlling our representatives, which is us, the citizens, not our government, not the most powerful government of all time, but they're controlling our voting power, our representation. Not every politician's owned by Israel, but enough of them to where we can't really get what we want done without Israel getting what they want, which is not how this is supposed to work. We're supposed to be able to vote for representatives who do what we want them to do, regardless of what a foreign country prefers. That should be common sense. That should be a common sense statement. In fact, what should happen is if we know a foreign country is buying off our politicians, we should be able to retaliate against that country with tariffs or whatever. I mean, hell, if we had a proper country, we'd simply go in there and take out their leader and say, don't do it again or you're next. You know what I mean? But it's not my country. I just live here. But yeah, AIPAC's a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. They're not the only lobbying group. You should really just take money out of politics. You know, what the politicians we elect should be able to take money from us to fund their campaigns, but they shouldn't be able to take money from a billionaire who just wants to buy off our representation, or especially not a foreign country that wants to buy off our representation. Let's see here. Rob Dew, he's a smart guy. He's talking about pedogate. If you aren't prepared, watching these videos can make you very depressed, but here's a collection that will tell you more than you ever wanted to know about these satanic pedophiles that we pay taxes to so they can eat babies. Damn them all to hell. May they meet an end greater than the pain they caused. Man, I agree with that. And of course, there's 19 videos where they investigate how an international satanic child trafficking death cult has infiltrated the USA. I'm not going to watch that right now. I may watch it eventually. But do understand, there's a misconception. Some people think that when you say someone's satanic, you mean they're evil, which you can't. That can be a thing. You can't just, if you see someone kill a child, you can say, man, that person's satanic. And it's not completely wrong. But that doesn't mean they worship Satan. However, what a lot of people have forgotten, I guess, or just never do in the first place, there are people that are actually satanic, that actually defy God willingly on purpose in service to Satan. Those people have gotten very powerful and they are doing the things that they are doing, and we're not stopping them. That's really the problem. And if you don't stop them, they're not going to stop themselves. So it's really on us. But we as individuals can't do anything. All we can do is pressure our government to do something about it. And here's the thing. If Trump doesn't do anything about these satanic pedophiles, he's going to lose the midterms, and then he will be what we call a lame duck president, meaning a president who can't get anything done because he doesn't have the power to do it. He lost his power because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And at that point, there's definitely nothing that's going to happen. Nothing good's going to happen. We know that much. Why Trump is not doing it, there's a lot of speculation over that. I think he wants it to just go away because he doesn't want to deal with it. Like that's a lot of work to try to take out the most powerful people in the world, bring them to justice. That's a lot of work. But what we're telling him is we don't care how much work it is. We want that to stop so that we can gain control over our lives again. It's a really big thing. It's not a small thing. It's not, hey, when you get around to it, could you free us from enslavement by satanic pedophiles who are running our lives? That's not a modest request. That's a demand that has to happen. You understand? That has to happen. It's not an option. We can't keep living in a world controlled by satanic pedophiles. It's not going to work out for us. Even if your kid doesn't get abducted, tortured, and murdered, even if you don't care about kids getting tortured and murdered, your life will be negatively impacted by evil people controlling the economy and the culture and subverting us at all times. We don't live in a real world. We're living in a fake matrix world put together by these people. And, people like me like to look into this stuff so I'm not trapped in a world of lies. But most American citizens don't look into it, and they don't know any better. So they're in a constant state of confusion, demoralization, depression. They don't know why. Well, the answer to why do I feel this way is because you're living in a fake world and you don't know what's going on. Everything's confusing. Nothing makes sense. We can stop all of that if we can somehow get our government to do something about the people that are doing that to us. That is of the utmost importance. That has to happen. So I would say that if you can't stand the Democrats, which I can't because I hate communism and they are the Communist Party, then you better focus on the party that you're voting for and make sure they do what you want them to do. If you are a Democrat, and there's no way you would ever vote Republican, that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's whatever. Do what you want to do. But you should be pushing for this too. You should be pushing for the justice to come to these satanic pedophiles and free us from their enslavement. You really should. I don't think anyone wants that to happen. So that should be a bipartisan issue. You shouldn't say, well, the Republicans are mad at the satanic pedophiles, so I'm going to support them. Don't do that. Don't fall into that trap. Furthermore, I would strongly suggest you look, if you only watch CNN, you're not seeing the stuff I'm seeing. You're not seeing the truths that I'm seeing. You need to look at the news organizations that CNN hates, that tells you are crazy people, liars. You need to watch them. You need to watch them because CNN are communist hoax pushers. And you will only get communist hoaxes pushed on you if that's your only news source. Spend some time watching the alternative news sources. See the other side. There's a chance you've been getting fooled this whole time, not because you're stupid, but because they're really good at it. So don't let your pride stop you from learning the truth about what's happening in the world, because if you knew the truth, you'd probably move in a different direction, and it would probably benefit all of us. So don't let your pride hold you back from learning different perspectives, because there's a good chance you've been getting lied to your entire life. And I don't think you want that to happen either. At any rate, I'm going to wrap it up. I know I made some bad points, but I did make some good ones too.